Hello, I'm here to discuss the first 6 books that I have read in the month of May. We're in May, right? I have lost all conception of time. We are once again joined by Haruki in this video. He is sleeping over there, if you can even see him. Maybe only just. Let me just... There you go. You can see him there. Ooh, extreme close-up. There we go. So we're joined by Haruki today, who I think you can still see in this shot anyway. But anyway, we're here to talk about the first 6 books that I read in the month of May. So I'm going to start off with my rereads. So the first one was Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is book 1 in the Founders trilogy. Book 2 just came out and I'm actually currently reading that one. And so I wanted to reread this because it's been a little over a year since I read this one, and it's epic fantasy and there's a lot of detail in here, and I feel like I wanted to make sure that I remembered all of that detail before jumping in to book 2. This, like I said, it's epic fantasy and it follows predominantly a character named Sanchia, who is a thief, and she steals something that ends up getting her into a lot of trouble. A lot of unlikely alliances are formed throughout the book, and the magic system is called scriving, which is an ancient language that allows you to write on objects and change their reality, change what they believe about themselves. So you could write on the wheels of a cart to make it believe that it's always going downhill, even when it's not, which means that it will always be moving forwards at all times at various different speeds depending on the scribes that you used. So it's a really fascinating magic system, fascinating world, really fast-paced book, which I really love, and thoroughly enjoyed rereading it, and so far I am enjoying the sequel, but I will wrap that one up at a later date. The other reread that I've done so far this month has been Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. I reread this one because I just really needed something light, fluffy, easy, fun, and that's exactly what this was. We follow Josh and Hazel, who meet in university and then don't meet again for a number of years, and when they do meet again they become friends and they start setting each other up on blind dates, which they then go on as double dates. And this is an adult romance story, so you know that Josh and Hazel are going to end up together in the end, but watching them get there is really sweet. Hazel is really fun and vivacious and quirky, and Josh is very mellow and relaxed and straight-laced and that kind of thing. So they're the kind of people that you wouldn't really even see being friends, but they're actually really great together, and this is a really cute story and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And then if you watched my May TBR video, you will know that my focus for this month has been reading sequels. So these are all sequels. The first is Lady Smoke by Laura Sebastian, which is the sequel to Ash Princess, which follows a character named Theo, who at the age of 6 years old watched her mother, the Queen, murdered by the man who conquered the land of Australia. And Theo has ever since been kept as sort of an example. So she's kept seemingly in the life of a princess. She's got beautiful clothing and she goes to all the balls and things, but actually she's used as an example to any Australian people who misbehave. If anything goes wrong in the land of Australia, it's taken out on her flesh, and she wants to rise up and set her people free. I really enjoyed book 1, super fast paced. This one wasn't quite as fast paced, I didn't think, but it was still really great. I still really enjoyed it. The character and relationship development was still really enjoyable. in this one, and I'm really intrigued to see where book 3 is going to take us, because at the end of book 1 I was thinking, well, where is this going? There's so many different ways this could go, and then this went in ways I wasn't expecting and really enjoyed, and then we end up at the end of this one again in the position like this could go in so many directions. Where is it going? So I'm really enjoying this series. It's really easy to read fantasy as well, which is always nice, and I'm looking forward to picking up the final instalment because supposedly it's the best book in the series, and I love that. Then we have Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, which is the concluding novel in the Grisha trilogy, or the Shadow and Bone trilogy, whichever one people are referring to it as these days. This one, again, I can't tell you what this one is about, but book 1 follows Alina, who discovers that she has magic that she didn't know about, and she kind of goes to magic school to learn how to control her powers, and then all sorts of other stuff happens that I can't really tell you about. This, like I said, is the conclusion to that story. The pacing in this one was much better than in book 2. I found the pacing in book 2 really strange. The beginning was really well paced, the ending was really well paced, and then the middle bit just kind of wobbled about a lot. So that was a bit odd, but this one was much better. We kind of went out like a bull from a gate, and it kind of stuck at that pace the whole way through. It was a little bit slower in the middle, but that was actually fine. The main complaint I have with this particular book is that the main conflict of the series that we've been building up to throughout all 3 books really happened in maybe 2 or 3 pages. It was just too fast for me. So, and this is not necessarily a pacing issue, because overall the pacing of the book was very good. It's just that there was so much build up, and then the ending just happened, and it was like, oh, I wasn't necessarily prepared for that. And I was almost in some ways disappointed by how quickly that particular climax, if you want to call it that, was over. But then what I did like is that after that we did spend a fair amount of time saying goodbye to everybody and tying everything up and showing a little bit about the direction that everybody's lives are going in after that big climactic scene, which I do like. I don't love it when a book just ends pretty much immediately after the main big resolution of whatever conflict has been going on throughout the story. So I did like that. But I think on the whole, this series is fine, good, but not amazing for me. I'm happy I read it, but I'm not necessarily in a rush to reread it, and it wouldn't necessarily come anywhere near something that I would recommend unless there's something specific in it that somebody asked for and I felt that fit that specific request for a recommendation, but otherwise this was just okay for me. And then the last 2 books that I'm going to talk about in this particular video are from the same series, and this series is my new obsession, and that is the Keeper of the Lost Cities series by Shannon Messenger. I read book 2, Exile, and book 3, Everblaze, and I am just loving this series. So book 1 follows Sophie, who is a telepath, and that means that she doesn't fit in, and she kind of spends her life hiding. She's only 13 and she's been a telepath since she was 5. And then she discovers that she's actually an elf, and she gets taken to the elven kingdoms where she can start to show her telepathy, and she doesn't have to hide anymore, but it starts to become apparent that she's not really normal in elven society either. And there's a magic school setting, there's loads of adventure, there's quite a large cast of characters. The cast of characters is all really well developed and the pacing is perfect. This is a middle grade series, so it's fast paced anyway, but I just love that. And I love Sophie, but I love all of the characters, and I think we got to know a lot more about some of the other characters in this one, as well as seeing Sophie develop even further. So book 2 was even more about characters, I think, but Shannon Messenger is really good at having an excellent balance between that character development, world building and plot. So they all happen here, they keep you flipping the pages, but by the end you're even more invested in the characters than you were at the start, and you've gone on an adventure whilst getting there. So that's really, really great. And like I said, this particular one spent a lot of time developing relationships with some different characters than in the first book, and also us getting to know some different characters. And also Sophie has to deal with some really difficult things in this particular installment, and so her character progression is quite massive here. And then in this one we are further developing those relationships with characters, but we're also spending a lot more time in this one unravelling some of the mysteries of the plot and introducing even more characters, and Sophie is progressively having to deal with even more difficult things. And whilst this one focuses a little bit on relationship building, but mostly on introducing new characters and getting to know them, I feel like this one, the focus is on relationship building. We do get introduced to some new characters as well, but the real focus of this one, I thought, was the building of relationships between the pre-existing characters, which I really enjoy. If you know anything about my reading style, I love character-driven stories, and I especially love seeing relationships and relationships grow and develop, and this series does that really, really well. So I thoroughly enjoyed both of these, and it won't be long before I am picking up the next one. I'm trying to hold back and not binge the whole series, because if I do that I feel like I'll get a massive book hangover, but also I feel like if I don't allow myself to read them I will send myself into a reading slump. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword there, and I think I will probably just carry on reading them fairly consistently. So those have been the first 6 books that I've read so far in May. Have you read anything in May that you've been loving so far? Do let me know. But that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.